Welcome back. You're watching Big Deal and we are discussing the deal dynamics in the diagnostic space. So Anmol, we spoke about the valuations. Now, some of the recent acquisitions that were done 6 months prior when diagnostic space was at its peak and COVID-19 situation gave it a lot of tailwind. At that time, it became expensive. IPOs also came at an expensive valuation. How have the matrices now changed in your view when you analyze these diagnostic companies which are going to define the future valuation?
See, a couple of things have happened. One big distortion which happened from a valuation standpoint was that FY21 and 22 became some kind of a basis. You know, whether it's the Suburban acquisition, to some extent some of the others. What happened was FY21-22, which had, you know, this completely Six Sigma event of COVID contributing meaningfully to top lines.
Yes.
That became some kind of a benchmark. And on those unsustainable kind of numbers, you got a revenue and EBITDA multiple.
Yes.
Now, obviously, you know, while that was happening, there were pressures on account of competitive intensity which were increasing.
Yes.
So going forward, you're going to have a challenge on the numerator as well as the denominator,
yes,
which obviously is going to lead to a reset as far as specific company valuations are concerned. I'm with Sanjeev when he kind of points out that the long-term attractiveness quotient of the overall diagnostic space does remain intact. We still have a long road to cover when it comes to, you know, the opportunity size when we benchmark against West and some of the other players. But the fact is that this short-term disruption and aberrations in valuations, top lines, metrics, all created a problem. I think we are a couple of quarters away until the basis of at least the listed players settle down and they are able to kind of, you know, come to more sustainable revenue run rates, which will have only a very minimal, if at all, any contribution from COVID. And second is that, you know, a lot of the initial competitive impulses of the new players would have, you know, begun to come in play. And what also happens in this particular space is that, you know, diagnostics, what makes it so attractive is that it lies at, you know, the crossroads as far as healthcare, retail, logistics, consumer service is concerned. And therefore, a lot of companies think that they have allied competencies, right, which are the most important. And therefore, competition can come in from multiple directions. While it's true that, you know, the competency set is spread across industry verticals, but to bundle it and then launch a viable commercial proposition, which is also scalable, that's obviously a very different and a longer term game.
So the bigger question, and to the point that Sanjeev made on penetration, penetration will happen over time, Sanjeev. But what right now is really hurting the industry is the price war. So the margin is getting squeezed for all the players because there are so many new entrants, even hospitals, pharmacies, big players, everybody entering this particular space is disrupting the price, squeezing the margins, and therefore the profitability. What is the answer to that? How long do you think this is going to sustain?
Well, that's a $1 million question. But see, to my limited imagination, what I can tell you is that, you know, people who have gotten easy money, I'm sorry for using this word, some people I've seen in the industry, they are like onto the money burning mode. I think what one has to see is the sustainability of the business. The largest player's share in the market is only about 2.5–3%. So even if somebody by, you know, coming out with, you know, predatory pricing is able to become overnight the largest player, that would be just, you know, a speck in the whole, you know, whole universe. So I feel that, you know, it is very important to be a little careful on this side. Disruption, the ultimate is not disruption actually. I think aim should be, how do we really make the services available to the people sitting at home? So while, you know, certain companies are doing a wonderful job of, you know, making the services available right in the bedroom, the comfort of the bedroom of the people or the patients, yet at the same time, we have to see the sustainability. If we are able to do the right job by making superior quality services available to the people on a sustainable basis, that is something good. Otherwise, what will happen is a lot of people are going to burn their hands, and the serious players who actually want to genuinely do something good, creating genuine value as opposed to just creating valuation, they'll die. which is not a good thing, So
Right. So to that point, Sanjeev, consolidation by natural death is also a phenomena, and we have seen that play out beautifully in telecom sector, and the price war continued till we became like a 3-player market. So what is the end game is the bigger question. But let's jump to another big theme. That is the omni-channel theme that has picked up. Now, ThyroCare was bought over by PharmEasy. Now, the stock price of ThyroCare is much below the acquisition price, not making sense in the overall scheme of things, maybe in the long run. So, Anmol, what do you think about the omni-channel approach, and are there more such collaborations of offline, online and e-pharmacy to give that tech advantage to the brick and mortar diagnostics? Is there more to come and more to play out there?
There's definitely more to come and more to play out. There is going to be an industry evolution, and as the deal that you alluded to has demonstrated, that there can always be collateral reasons for someone to acquire. So from a unit economic standpoint, you might think that it doesn't make sense, but as a part of a bouquet, it might make sense for someone. But it's going to be a lot of hard work. It's obviously far more harder on the ground, which Sanjeev will clearly testify to, than when it is conceived in boardrooms on Excel sheets. Some of these synergies will clearly take time to play out. But one important thing we have to remember, and this is to the example you gave of telecom versus diagnostics, is that telecom essentially was a very capital intensive business. And today, when we are talking of valuations having collapsed, industry being in a consolidation mode, we are still talking about 24-25% ROCs.
Yes.
I don't think telecom has made that kind of return on capital even in its peak booms.
Yes.
You have established players still making margins north of 20% at EBITDA level. That's when pricing is not offering a tick. So there is a lot of headroom that they have to kind of keep expanding, and for us to see that death leading to consolidation, or natural, this phrase that you use, I think we are some distance.
That won't be as critical because the debt burden and the leverage is not that high compared to the debt. Very good distinction made there, Anmol, and that's something to be also highlighted. But Sanjeev, do you think that the bouquet approach of omni-channel is the way to go, and would you also be banking on it in later times?
So it depends on the DNA. What is your DNA? Is your DNA diagnostics or healthcare or some tech platform? So if you have a tech platform, you can host any and all kind of services there. Be it you can be into aviation business, into grocery, into retail, or whatnot, and you can host on that platform that you have. I think first and foremost, it's very important to be having the right kind of DNA for diagnostics and healthcare in particular. It's a very different animal we're talking about. It's not like any other business. Secondly, and certainly it's a very, very big comfort to the recipient of the services, to the patients. Because at one click you can have access to your telehealth, e-pharmacy, and e-diagnostics. But let's not forget that the curative segment in our case in diagnostics is 90%, where the wellness segment is only about 10%. So typically what we have seen is, by and large, the omni-channel players are targeting this limited segment of 10%. No doubt it's growing at a rapid pace of 25%, on the CAGR basis. Yet, I think what I'm saying is, the point I'm trying to make is that you have to have the right DNA for diagnostics. And as long as you are able to give accurate results and creating that accessibility for the people would not mind coming to you specifically, even if you're not into omni-channel. So imagine, so one thing one has to get right is, we are not living in the US. Every 100 meters, you'll have a chemist shop. Every 100 meters, you'll have a collection center or diagnostics player sitting there. So the point is, accessibility, by and large, at least in the urban area, is good. We have to go down to the tier 2, tier 3 towns with the labs, not just with the collection centers. So I think probably in the advanced economies where the labor is a major problem, perhaps omni-channel would work better out here. I think if you are doing a good job and your DNA is, as I said, healthcare or diagnostics, probably you can still, carve out a niche for yourself.
All right. So domain expertise, that's what you're banking on. But one very quick question, Sanjeev, very small answer to that. Any key trend you see emerging in the space? going
Well,
forward?
multiple. If you talk about the short term, I think disruption is happening. A lot of discounts are being given, clearly, I see that this is going to last for a few months or maybe a year and a half. After which, the things should settle down. I'm hoping, because they are good players who want to do a good job, and ensure sustainability.
All right. So it will take some time for the dust to settle. Anmol, any final words on how do you see the sector going forward? Very quickly.
The sector is here to stay, and there was obviously excesses which get built during every peak of the cycle.
With everybody entering from hospitals to e-pharmacy to big players, do you think that is going to be sustainable and successful experiment?
Not everyone is going to succeed, but there are going to be a critical number of players. Next year, same time when we talk, probably you'll see the landscape having defined itself much better.
All right. All right. Thanks, Anmol. Thanks, Sanjeev, for your thoughts. So the headwinds, as far as the diagnostic space is concerned, is here to stay for some time. But there will be many, many new entrants as well as collaborations, and we have to see how they perform. And my big question would be, is it going to become, at a later stage, a big boys play with so many big business houses really making an entry into this space? With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Big Deal. Thanks so much for tuning in.